After the filming, I'll actually do the same demonstration on the other side, but we're going to break it up into smaller chunks. Because the objective is I want you to actually try every single feature or every single tip and trick after I demonstrate it, because the body never forgets, right? That's when you learn to dance too. So for the first portion, I'm going to go through it. Don't worry if you don't see or understand, because on the second side, after the filming, I'll go into more detail, and then each time you guys go back to your stations to try the tip and trick, I'm going to actually come around and make sure you guys don't have any questions, or you're blending properly, or your application, your placement, and everything's good. Cool? So, are we on? All right, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to first start with a face primer to prep the skin. Obviously, you want to be freshly washed, toned, moisturized, and all of that stuff. Good skin equals good makeup, always. It's like painting a wall before you prime it. You just wouldn't do that. You want your makeup to last long, sit smoother, like live up to its full potential, right? So, primer first. Primer is something, even though it's a clear product, you do want to be a little bit more careful with your application. It isn't just one of those throw it on and whatever you think is good. You do want to make sure it's on every inch of the skin. The application of the primer really does affect everything you put on top of it. So I like to start right here in the frontal face plane of the cheek and then blend outward into the hairline, jawline, especially in the T-zone right here. This is what I like to call the no zone. This is where you don't want shine. Primer will help to hold any perspiring and any makeup from getting too shiny or sweaty and greasy. There we go. So we're primed. And if you're unsure that you might have maybe missed a spot or whatever, you can feel the skin with your finger. It's very silky and velvety. The primer has a little bit of a mattifying factor so that any makeup will sort of glide on a little bit more buttery, and if you have dry patches or anything like that, this will disguise those dry patches. Then we pull out our liquid foundation. A little goes a long way with this stuff too, so like don't go to town with it. It's easier to add more as you go as opposed to starting off with too much and then trying to shear it down afterwards. And again, I like to start with the frontal face plane right here. Just apply it down there and then blend outward from there on. And look up for me. Get it right up to the eyelash line. Now, depending on your model and depending on, a lot of other outside factors, you may or may not want to do a concealer after this. We, in this case, do not need to, because you have flawless, amazing skin. You have no boo-boos to hide. But sometimes it's very necessary to do a little extra concealer around the under eye area and in the inner corner near the nose bridge, just to cover up that darkness. Everybody's got it. Doesn't mean you're 80 years old, doesn't mean you didn't sleep the night before, but the skin around the eye is the thinnest, so that's where you're going to see the most coloring come through, because that's where the blood pools. The veins around the eyes are the thinnest, and it's hard for the heart to pump the blood upward as opposed to downward because of gravity, right? So a little concealer doesn't hurt. There we go. So she's perfected. And then what I will use the concealer for with a lip brush or any synthetic bristle brush. You don't want a natural, fluffy brush to apply this. Synthetic and flat and small like a lip brush, for instance, in the Arbonne kit. And I'm going to put this all over the eyelid as a base. When you're applying eyeshadow on the eyelid, I've always found the application to be more successful if the eyelid is creamy. So what happens with the eyelids is, how many of you have done eyeshadow even just on yourselves on a regular day for whatever reason, and your eyeshadow halfway through the day creases in the little folds of the crevices of the eyelid, right? That's because your eyelid is producing sweat and it's breaking down the product, and because your eyes are open most of the day, hopefully, you're not walking around with your eyes closed, the makeup is gathering in the lines. And if you do an eyeshadow application with an eyelid already with a bit of oils in the folds, what will happen is the eyeshadow will grab deeper in those oily areas and softer in the areas that don't have as much moisture. It's like walking on the beach and looking at a patch of wet sand versus dry sand. The wet sand is deeper. That's the same effect you're going to create if you put eyeshadow on an uneven eyelid. So by putting on the concealer all over first, you're starting off with an even coat of moisture everywhere. I like to use a lip brush or a synthetic brush just to have a little more precision. You can absolutely pat this on with your finger. You don't have to be overly careful about this. You just want to get this on, sort of like the primer on the skin. This is like the primer for the eye. If you have an eyeshadow primer, great. If you don't, concealer serves just fine. I wouldn't suggest putting the liquid foundation on the eyelid for this, because liquid foundation is, again, a liquid after all, and it's more emollient than a cream concealer. It won't withstand sweat as well. Then I'm going to take the white eyeshadow that you guys have in your kit, starting with that, and the smaller eyeshadow brush. I'm going to actually press the eyeshadow onto the eyelid. There's none of this fluffy, soft kind of feathering back and forth motion. Pressing the pigment on is really packing the color onto the creamy eyeshadow you just applied, and that's going to ensure the color stays and actually shows up as bold as possible. And because this is dance and not glamour shots, you want it to really be, you know, clear and strong. So you're going to look pretty, but you're also going to look pretty for stage, right? So in little tapping motions like that, just pat it in as if this were your fingertip. I start in the center of the eyelid, on the lash line, and I pat outward. Just up to the crease of the eye. And the crease is where the eyelid recedes a little bit. That's the socket. So this is the bulbous part. This is the crease where it recedes. And then this is the brow bone right above it. Then with the larger shadow brush, I'm going to go into it with the darker color you guys have in your kit. With this brush, I'm actually going to go into the product on its tip. Because using the tip of the brush, I'm going to be able to press the pigment into the crease, jiggle it back and forth just for placement right there, and then from there I will feather it outward and a little inward. And this only goes in the crease. This is just in the hollow of the eye. So we've highlighted the eyelid with the light color, and now we're pushing the eyelid back where you want it to look receded. Like that. Very wispy, short, back and forth sort of strokes like that. And then when you think you're ready, add a little bit more until you're happy with how deep the color actually looks. And then once you've laid down the line right here on the crease of the eye, from very deep and sort of heavier application in the outer, gradually thinner and softer towards the front, I'll bring it down the eyelid at the outer corner to actually meet the corner of the eye right here. So tip of the brush into the powder, press it in, blend out, blend in, fade it towards the front, and then bring it down. And let's see. Voila. Cool. And then I'll go back in with the same smaller brush I started with and the light color, and I'll press this right under the eyebrows again. So right now you're done, you're sort of doing a push and pull kind of application. This you're pulling to the front, this you're pushing in, and this you're pulling out again. So you're creating this ripple effect, right? So from 500 feet away, people are going to think, oh look, there's her eyelids. The objective, success. Then we have liquid eyeliner. Liquid eyeliner is not everybody's favorite. It is a little finicky, but there are ways around it to make the application as smooth and easy as possible. If you're doing liquid liner on someone, what I like to do is I get the model to put their chin up and then look all the way down to the ground as far as they can go. And I like to glide the brush across the eyelashes because your eyelashes grow naturally in a straight line, right? So let the eyelashes be your guide. Gently let the brush glide across the lashes and you will have a beautiful straight line. You do not want to take your time and perfect a beautiful smooth line. That is when your hand starts to get shaky and you get skips and it's a whole mess because it's liquid. The other thing is if you're doing it on yourself, you also want to throw your head back and look down your nose at it. You want to look into the wall mirror with your head tilted. You don't ever want to look at it straight head on because then you've got one eye closed, one eye open, which wrinkles up the eye that you're working on, and then you get twitchy and you see a brush coming at your eye. It's just no good. It's really difficult. So by tilting your head back, you have a clear view in the reflection of your eyelid flat, and again, if you let the lashes guide your brush, you're golden. It takes a little practice, but a lot of people like to just bring their head back up. You got to just remind yourself to keep your head tilted back. So I'll tilt your head back, and then I'll start in the center, because this way I can gauge how thick I want the outer and how thin I want the inner. and really use those eyelashes as your guide. You can even sort of pat it on, like tap the eyelid, sort of the eyeliner onto the lash line instead of dragging it across. Give your model a little break as the liquid dries, and maybe they need to blink because the last thing you want is their eyes to water. And then look down this way. I also find it really, really helps me when I ask the model to look in the opposite direction of the area that I'm working on. So for instance, if I'm working on the outer corner here, I'll get my model to look towards her nose, like that. And then let's see, voila. You can wing it as much as you like, depending on your model's eye shape. I'm used to saying model because I work a lot in fashion, but your dancer is what I meant. So you look at your dancer's eye shape. If her eyes are perfectly almond like yours, that will suffice. If maybe it's a little more round and you need a bit of a wing or an angle, add it, you know, because the objective is to make everybody look unison, and not everybody does have the same eye shape. So that's the eye right there. Then we have mascara. You absolutely should always put on mascara before you do fake lashes. If you don't, one of two things will happen. You will not want to have a close-up photo taken because people will see two-toned lashes. Two, your fake lashes won't blend in as nicely. The black liner helps the strip of lash sort of disguise the band of the lashes, but the mascara will help make the fake lashes look more hidden within your own. Everyone's going to know you're wearing fake lashes, but this will just blend it in nicer. It's sort of like a platinum blonde with black fake lashes. It's kind of night and day, right? You can see it. And look down. Again, I get my model to look down when I'm doing eyeliner and mascara. Jiggle the wand into the base of the lash and sort of lift the lashes as I apply. How many people do mascara like this? Pump, 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 and then just this. So what you're doing by doing that is using the product on that one face of the brush. But there's all of this that you're not using. So what I like to do is I jiggle the brush into the lash, and then as I'm combing it up, I rotate the brush a little bit, so I'm using the product all around the wand. Doing this isn't applying any more product than it did the first stroke. You're just wasting time and drying the wand, right? So by doing this, you're using it to full optimum potential. And when you're applying mascara, it's the perfect opportunity to lift those lashes up. Curse of the Asian lash. Our lashes are so straight and they dart downward. So I would curl mine and then do mascara. But this is really going to help pave the way your eyelashes will apply after this step. Because if you lift your own lashes and you apply the fake lashes, your own will almost act as a support and hold those fake lashes up to create an even more like sort of erect fan, you know, very bushy, bright-eyed kind of effect. If you don't lift your own lashes and have a good mascara application, the false lashes that you put on top will sort of be droopy, lackluster, and not as impressive. So, there we go. Our beautiful model. Dancer. Fake lashes. I think this is the second most dreaded step next to the liquid eyeliner for most people. I like to work with a little ball of glue just on the back of my hand, but you can by all means just squeeze it out onto a piece of tissue or whatever. Work with a Q-tip or the back of an eyeshadow brush, but I'll just dip it directly into the false lashes that I'm using because I'm comfortable that way. What you want to do is let the glue dry on the strip of lashes first. Not completely, but 90%. So I'll actually air it out until I figure it's practically dried out. And you'll know with this type of lash glue, the surgical kind, it's like in a little toothpaste kind of stick, and it does squeeze out white. Once the white starts to slowly disappear, that's when you know it's drying, because it does dry clear. If you put the lashes on immediately while it's wet, the corners might lift, the center might not stay, they might shift, or it might come off with your fingers as you let go because you've got mascara on them from the first 7 uses or whatever. If you let it semi-dry, and you put it down, they will stick to the skin upon application, and you avoid that whole nightmare. So giving yourself the extra time to really air it off is not a bad thing. You do want to make sure you measure the lashes to see if they fit your model's eye shape too. Sometimes they do come a lot longer than what your model's eye is capable of handling. So you can trim them from either end. You can also trim the length of them if you find them fully bushy and way too much or whatever. And tilt right back and look down. So I think they're just about ready. Some people actually like to apply fake lashes with a pair of tweezers. That makes me really nervous because tweezers up to someone's eye is never a recipe for good. So, effortless. Literally, you just place it onto the eye and it's good to go. The glue, like I said, does dry clear, so initially you're going to see some white poking through, but once it's dry, it's good.
And it goes all the way across? Or
All the way across, yeah. I like to line it up especially with the end, meeting the end of their eye, so that it's not gorgeous, luscious, and then boom, like what happened, right? It's okay for the front to be a little less, but the back has to be a perfect elongated sort of cat shape. So that's the eye. What I will do a lot of the time, and not everybody agrees with, is I will actually go back in with a darker eyeshadow and just tuck it underneath the eye, because I find too much attention only on the top makes the bottom look stark white, then your eye's not completely framed. So look up for me. I will take that dark color with the same brush that I used earlier and just lightly feather it in the outer portion of the eye here. The outer third, and I'll slowly blend it into the outer half sort of point, and that's it. Just so it wraps around. Now we can move on to cheeks. Blush. Blush is not just blush, right? Especially when you're working with one color, you want to get, optimum use out of this. So what I like to do is contour and blush with one color all at the same time. So from the hairline, I'll bring it in right under the cheekbone. This is where your contour goes, and then I'll just hook it up and bring it up to the apple. So from a distance, the cheekbone is sort of enhanced a bit, and then up to the apple, just like that. There we go. That's the cheek. If you wanted to create the illusion of a slightly more exaggerated cheek, this is just a little 2 cents. I love to take the white eyeshadow with a larger face brush and I'll dust it down the temple right here. Just above the blush. It's very subtle, but it does make a difference. Cool. Then we go on to the lips. Did I lose anybody so far? Everything good? So lipstick is last, but lipstick is also the easiest step. I mean, it's lipstick and it goes on your mouth, right? So, I love to take my brush and really use that to create that clean edge, because I don't use lip liners. I mean, I'm not against them, but in the case that you are not working with a lip liner, you will depend on this lip brush to give you a crisp line. Do not ever let your model do their own lipstick if you're doing makeup on someone. If you're doing makeup on yourself, obviously you have no choice. But using a lip brush will create the sharpest edge, which does make a difference, because you'd be surprised. It's like if I got a wobbly liquid eyeliner on this side and a clean one on this side, you'd think nobody would notice from 500 feet away, but they would. It would look like she's got a lazy eye. Something would be thrown off. So same thing with the lip. You want the lip shape to be very precise and symmetric. And that's not just a picky opinion from a makeup artist. It really does affect the overall aesthetic of the face. There you go. Ta-da! Cool. There you go. And that's it.